Well, let me just pull up two things. Um, I'll have a couple questions along the way just to clarify things related to your process. But if you don't mind, everyone opening ZoomInfo in the background and following along. Okay. Awesome. Can everyone see my ZoomInfo screen? Awesome. And then my LinkedIn screen now? Good. Cool, cool. All right. So, quick question. How many of you are familiar with and or use the ZoomInfo Chrome extension? Yeah? Awesome. Good, good. So some of you, a good chunk of you, this is awesome. Okay, good. Then I am going to jump into ZoomInfo here really quick so that you can learn how to build lists based on particular kinds of criteria. Companies that are like this and people who are like this with these kinds of skills and background and roles. Um, Question real quick, would that be useful for everyone today? Awesome. 0 for 2. We're off to a good start today. Well, why don't I do this? I'll show you a couple of the basics and you can interrupt me and say, I already know this, or this is great. Cool? Let's do that. All right. So when we log into ZoomInfo's platform, what we're going to see first is a really cool dashboard. This is customizable in all sorts of cool ways. I'm going to skip ahead to something else because, again, I want you leaving with one fresh thing today. So what we've got here is advanced search. And this is where you can build lists of companies and contacts based on multiple pieces of criteria. Um, Question before I jump ahead. When you all are logging into ZoomInfo, if someone can just give me a quick example. When you're using ZoomInfo or logging in, what's like the first thing you do, or what's one thing you're doing when you do that?
For me, a lot of times I am using this advanced search, looking for specific companies, um, more companies than I am for people, but people too, for sure.
Okay, great. Good, good, good. So then I will do a quick review of what's available in advanced search. Shannon was mentioning that companies are the primary thing advanced search brings there. So I'll just jump through real quick. Industry, you can search for industries that we have built. You can also add keywords because there's a bunch of niche things and it might not be in our pre-populated terms. Feel free to interrupt if you come across any questions. Employee count, we can do simple. Yeah, Shannon, go ahead.
Sorry, what type of examples could you give for the keywords?
Yeah, great question. So industry keywords, let's say something like um, mm, 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 something really niche. Well, the one that comes to mind, we probably have this written out, would be like medical devices.
Okay.
Um, you know, Again, that's probably kind of a bad example because we've got something in here similar to that. But medical devices would be where that would fit in is any company with medical devices in their industry or sub-industry description, or where the keyword is cool, is it will reference the company's description of itself. So industry descriptions are going to be an external. We think you, food manufacturing company, are first a manufacturing company, second a food company, da 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 da. They themselves might speak differently. So that's where keywords are particularly helpful. Useful?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank
Awesome. Great question, Shannon. Keep speaking up. Um, One thing I wanted to show you all, just in case it's new, we've got show all filters here at the bottom. So there's going to be more options. We can go department employee count. So you're looking for particular folks or particular companies with a department count for your recruits. You know, this is relevant. Growth rates. So this is kind of the next level ZoomInfo use case. But if you go in the past year or the past 2 years, you can go towards a positive or a negative growth rate as relevant to, your recruiting and purposes and such. These last couple years this year's probably going to be a negative growth rate for a lot of companies. A positive growth rate, that's a big deal today. Like a positive growth rate matters more today maybe than it did in a lot of prior years, right? So that's another example of something that I'm confident would hopefully be relevant for you all. I'm going to throw out just a couple other quick things and then pause for questions, thoughts, feedback. But funding is another, because if a company were to get funding in the last couple months or is anticipating funding in Q1, Q2, that's going to put them in a much different position than, say, companies with the negative growth rate, right? So there's a bunch of different ways to think about how to. My way to think of it is, forgive the cliche, but the needle in a haystack. Every time we add a new filter here, growth rate, positive or negative, funding, what it does is it gets rid of hay. Doesn't get rid of needles, right? There's still a lot of good needles in here. We just want to make it so that we have a higher ratio of good fits. And so growth rate, funding dates, there's all sorts of different things here. Company type, public, private, business model. So there's a bunch of different ways, again, to get rid of stuff that you don't care about. I want to pause. Questions, thoughts, feedback, helpful?
How up to date is the funding? Like, is it live data if someone just got new funding, or does it happen quarterly?
Yeah, good question. So we're updating at a grand level, we're updating the database live. Now, it
Okay.
doesn't mean that every data point gets updated like live every second, but the second we have it and we confirm it and it meets QA and all that stuff, then it's going in there. So there isn't a delayed cadence for the updates. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah,
What's
sure
your
thing.
source for funding?
Depends on the company. So like let's see.
You're using PitchBook or something like that, or
funding. I'm trying to think of specifically where we get our funding data. I don't believe we use really any meaningful third-party vendors like PitchBook. But let me follow up and get you that answer, because it's available to us. I just don't have it at the top of my head.
Okay,
cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure thing. Sure thing. Other questions, thoughts, feedback? Cool. Locations, would this be relevant for you? Is this new to anyone? Yeah. Quick thing I want to show you then in locations. The important thing here, let's say New York. It's a good one, we can type in and it'll show us the pre-populated options. But what I want to point out is down below here, this is an easy one to miss. And if you already know, it's just a good reminder. You can choose between the contact and the company location. So simple example, I'm in Portland, Oregon. Nike's global headquarters is right over here. So if I look up Portland, Oregon, I'm going to see everyone that works at Nike, whether they live in Europe or Oregon, right? And so if I'm recruiting for a specific place, not a remote role, then what I would want to do is contacts office, because I don't actually care where the HQ is. I want Sandy Jones, who lives in New York, to work at this place that I'm recruiting for in New York. And so as as an observation for you to keep an eye out for, every time I'm adding a filter here, you'll notice the numbers drop. And that's what we want. Again, because ZoomInfo has way more than you need. So what we need to do is go, cool, get rid of this, get rid of this. Awesome. I have a narrow group that I can really start to hone in on. So, okay. Scoops. How many of you are familiar with Scoops? Okay, this is going to be a good one. And I have two more sort of primary things I want to show you. I'm a little hesitant because I don't want to go, here's 50 great things, you know what I mean? But you all seem to have a good baseline example, and I'll do a recap at the end so that, you know, we're making sure we don't miss anything. Scoops are projects, pain points, and initiatives. The way we get scoops are we send out, it's roughly like 125,000 surveys every day. And it's like, hey, Chris Leonardo, you work at ZoomInfo. What's your role? What technologies do you use? What challenges is the business facing? You know, this, that, and the other. And then what we do is we organize and compile the answers to those surveys, and we give folks like Amazon money or donations, something like that. And then we organize that and we provide that to our customers. So that's part of how we get scoops. It's also going to be news, you know, it's like we're going to be able to gather news. So people go, oh, this is like Google Alerts. No, Google Alerts is part of this. So news, public stuff is one part of this, but the rest of it is proprietary. It's just ours. This is stuff that we know. So, okay, I'm going to jump down here to scoop types. So there's two relevant filters for scoops, type and topic. And again, each one of these shrinks your list of available options, which is exactly what we want. So in your case, first off, personnel scoops, executive move, relevant. Yeah. Love it. Okay. So first off, what this means, executive move, hiring plans, lateral, layoffs, left, management, hire, open, promotion. I'm guessing all of these other than promotion would be relevant. Yeah. Let's pretend that I'm right. Cool. Promotion. Okay. Now what we're going to see is I'm going to go up to filters up here, and this will remind us what we're looking at. We're looking at companies in the medical device industry. We're looking at people who work at those companies located in New York. Now we're looking at scoops from the past 6 months, their executive moves, and all these kinds of stuff. So, for example, at Four Kites, Mike DeAngelis joined as head, right? Joined as CPO, join. Okay, now this is something that I like to see for you. VP Digital left the org, now serves da-da-da-da-da. So, okay, VP Digital. If that was something, if I'm trying to get a VP Digital role there, then, or I'm going to call and go, hey, I can help you guys get a new VP Digital, right? You can also select topics. You can select department. So if you're looking for a particular role, you could say, I want scoops related to IT, executive and personnel moves related to IT. Google laid off a bunch of folks. Laying off folks here, right? IBM seeking a project manager. So updated scoops, if you have started to look at these, then there are some that have been updated or improved since we, learned, excuse me, new information. You can add that there. Questions, thoughts, feedback here? Would this be helpful?
I think so. Yeah. Thank you. I've never used that before.
Awesome. The thing to keep in mind about scoops is you kind of tune them is my favorite way to say it. So like in my example, I'm starting big, but there's a bunch of stuff here that in your case, I don't really care about, somebody, so what we do is we build it, we go, awesome. Okay, this is a good start. And then we test it and we figure out, okay, what is there way too much of? And then we figure out how to get rid of that stuff. Now, what's extra cool about scoops is you can save and subscribe. Subscribing means every time a scoop meets this criteria, you get an email. Hey, good news. This company is looking for this type of person. And then you get to go, awesome. I didn't have to go find that information, right? So now what I can do is reach out to that company and go, hey, we do this for a lot of companies like you. And if you're needing something like that, let's talk. You're welcome. How about Friday or whatever it is that process looks like, right? So what you're then able to do is prioritize outreach to these organizations, prioritize that group of them, aside from the rest of your potential prospects and companies that you're looking for. I like this because I just always like something that I do once and then it gives me stuff to do. Not all of them are going to be relevant for me, but when they are, I'm really grateful because I just get to reach out once knowing that I'm ahead of the game. Thoughts, questions on scoops? Awesome. You can also get alerts for when new companies are added. So Shannon, to your point, you're like, I'm looking for companies for the most part. So if you want all the medical device companies, in a particular place, and you want to know when there's a new one, companies added. Daily, weekly, depending, I would probably say weekly for this one, this example, because there's so much. But in a lot of cases, a daily subscription, if it's a smaller list, is really nice because just every day you get something to work with. But if not, it can be really overwhelming. And then the ZoomInfo emails become one of those that you just don't look at, even though there's great stuff and they're showing up every day. You know what I mean? Okay, so let me do a recap. So what we started off with in ZoomInfo was logging into the homepage. Oh, and by the way, I'm logged in as Jill. So this is your version of ZoomInfo. So everything we're seeing here is exactly what you see when you log in. So there's nothing available that or not available that I'm showing you. So we logged in here. I took us to advanced search. Shannon was like, that's typically where I go to find particular companies that, I can reach out to. So we talked about ways to find particular companies. I always like to start with show all filters. And then we went to companies. We put in an industry. We typed in a keyword. We also, ZoomInfo is also going to have pre-populated stuff here. You can type it in and it'll start to show up. But again, if something is off the grid, then you can type in using a keyword. Company description keyword I also like. All right. Then we talked about locations, the difference between contact location and HQ location. So we click location, and then at the bottom, what is located there? HQ, contact. So far, my favorite is going to be scoops. Okay, sales signals, excuse me. Scoops, again, I think of them as projects, pain points, and initiatives. Pain points and initiatives are really going to be what comes to mind for you. Company needs these people. They had a riff and now they need to rebuild. Or initiatives. This company is expanding and they're opening up a new place, you know, a new thing. So scoop types, personnel scoops we love these. For particular campaigns, I like to be specific. So, you know, executive moves might not have the same messaging as layoffs, you know. So just keep in mind that you can curate this as much as you like. And then we just added a bunch more filters. We can always review what we have up here. We can save and subscribe to these lists so that we can come back to them without having to do it again. We're also going to keep in mind that for things, particularly with things like scoops, we're going to be tuning them as we go. We're going to improve the results. So keep an eye on, okay, does any of this matter to me? In some cases, people are like, I love it, but everything sucks. I don't care about any of this. So in that case, you call me up, you email me, and we go, great. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to get to the right stuff. It's perfect that you're able to find what doesn't work quickly because there is so much here. So then we talked about scoops. Those are going to be things that show up in your inbox. Companies looking for this. Awesome. Now I get to prioritize that company over another company that I might want to reach out to today. That's what we covered. I might have one more bonus fun thing for you, but I do want to pause for any other questions, thoughts, or feedback.
This has been great so far. I didn't realize that you could choose the contact location, which is, I mean, will save me so much time.
Right? Okay, thank you for saying that. I'm a big believer in like one of these clicks somewhere is going to save someone quite a bit of time, you know?
Yeah.
I'll note to your point, contact info. You can click on contacts and then contact info. I like to choose and because again, at first we want to get rid of hey. I want to get rid of anything that isn't my favorite, right? So I always like to say and mobile phone, and in your case, supplemental email. You probably want to get their business email, right? So in this case, these are contacts. It's too big, but let's pretend it's little. Those are contacts that have both a mobile and an email, not either, but both. These are the companies that have those people. We could change job title and role and all the HR hiring, you know, we could add that. But there's 94 companies with scoops related to personnel moves, right, over the last 6 months. And now we've got a group of people to reach out to. You can always obviously adjust title role because you don't want to reach out to the head of facilities or whatever. You want to reach out to the hiring person. So I did want to show that because that's another quick one that can get rid of people that might be cool, but don't matter for like your quick thing that you need to get done today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure thing. Last but most is what do you do with this once you've got it? Because it's really cool, but now what I don't want to do is look at somebody and then look at their email and copy it, right? So what we want to do, you guys have your own CRM, so we're going to go export to Excel. You may not want to export all these companies, so you can select. If you don't select any, that means everything. I don't know why we don't say that, but if you don't select anything, that autos to select all. So you can export to Excel, and then from there, put it where you want. And again, without the export, this is all just really cool information that doesn't help for the most part, right? So that export bit is going to be how you can scale this data to go beyond just one person, one company at a time. And you can reach out to multiple types of different organizations with unique messaging and get really targeted.
Well, thank you so much. Do we have any final questions?
This is awesome. Thank you.
Sure thing. I'm realizing at the end, I didn't even introduce myself and my role. So that was one of my takeaways that I was aiming for. So I want to make sure I don't miss that. Chris Leonardo, I'm your customer success manager. And my goal is to make sure you know where to click, to put it in a nutshell. There's so much we can do, and it's really easy to dream it all up and then get back to our hustle and jobs. So I care about making sure you actually make more money from this and that your job is easier and more effective. So that'll be why I reach out. Hey, you need to download this. Why aren't you logging in? You know, you're missing out on stuff. And I'm also here for every single question you have. So I want this to be really easy. Cool?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning.